Hey guys, my name is Dave Andrade for those that don't subscribe to my channel. Today I'm going to go through a quick overview of the VisionColor Impulz LUTs. Now these are film emulation LUTs, which are a little bit different than the Osiris ones that just came out, which are really color LUTs. So let's get into this overview and I'll show you how you can use these. The footage that you're seeing right now is from Newman Films. It was from an overview that he did on the FS700. Slow motion, things like that. So what I did was imported this footage into Premiere Pro. Right now we're in Adobe Premiere Pro. I imported one of the Impulz LUTs. It's one of the Cineon ones, and I'll show you how to use those. I did a fast color corrector on it. I added some contrast and did a couple other adjustments. And then from there, I put an adjustment layer on top, and then I did a Cineon conversion. What will happen is the Cineon LUT will really flatten out the image, and I'll show you that in a moment. So what you have to do from there is apply another LUT on top of that to bring it back to a Rec. 709 color space so that it looks essentially more pleasing to the eye. On top of that, I added a unsharp mask just to sharpen the footage up a little bit. Let me go ahead and disable this adjustment layer. I'm going to come down here, and as you can see, that already flattened the image out a little bit. I will also remove that fast color corrector that I added. And this is what I was referring to before. As you can see, it's a very flat, sort of washed out image. If I remove the LUT that I added, this was the original footage. So what you can do, and what I did in this example is, as I said, I imported the footage. I came to my effects panels. I typed in the lumetri effect. I dragged it up here. Right here, setup, you click on the link. Now I have a Windows machine, and I've already navigated here, which is why everything is already here, as you can see. But on the left-hand side, I added a folder, which is a quick access, because a lot of the times with the Windows machines, the last folder that you went to is what will show up. So just to make it nice and quick, I ended up putting it right here. So from here you have all these options. Now I have the ultimate version, which I purchased, so you have everything that you see here. You will not have all these options depending on which version that you purchased, but you may not need it. A lot of these are for higher end, well, more expensive cameras like the FS700 and things along those lines. If I go back here to the main folder, you can see the extent of the cameras that you have. You have the Blackmagic Cinema camera, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, the Arri Alexa, C100, so on and so forth. If something that you have doesn't fit into one of these categories, in other words, if you have a Canon DSLR and you didn't shoot in Pro LUT or VisionColor, any of these, you can come up here and you can choose Rec. 709 generic. And that would be my suggestion. Even if you shot in a flat picture style that doesn't fit into one of these categories, I would use the Rec. 709. Log generic is something that wouldn't fit into one of the categories of one of the other cameras that shoots in a really flat picture style. Say, for example, like the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. You can choose log generic if it doesn't fit into that category. But as you can see, they have a wide array of cameras that you can choose from. Even the GH4, which is a new camera that just came out, as I'm sure a lot of you know. So as I said, this is FS700 footage. I'm going to come down here. And here are all your options under that particular camera. And now I'll quickly run you through what all these options mean. As you can see, there are 4 options for each film style. You have the Cineon conversion, which I mentioned earlier, which will really flatten out the image. You have FC for film contrast gamma. You have FPE, which is film print emulation. And VS for vision space, which is sort of a low contrast gamma. It won't flatten the image out to the to the extent of the Cineon conversion, the Cineon option, but it will still give you a lot of control after the fact. That way you can apply your own color grading, your own contrast or whatever you want it to on top of that. What I'll do now, for an example, I'll use film contrast VisionColor 200. And you can see what that did to the image. It will have an effect on the color, but remember, these are film emulations. So its intended purpose is more to affect the styling of the film than it is necessarily to affect the color. Of course, that will come into play. In fact, I will show you another option. Right now we have the VisionColor. I will come down here and I'll choose the film contrast for the Lomo color. And as you can see, it gives you an entirely different style. Here we are in Speedgrade now. What I would do is import the footage, as I did here. Now disregard this effect at the bottom. I'll come to that in a moment. I would apply a LUT. In this case, I put the vision space. On top of that, I would do the primary correction. As I said, the vision space will flatten the image out a little bit. And then on top of that, if you wanted to add some more contrast, some more color, something along those lines, you can. Again, if you came down here and used the Cineon conversion, what I would do from there is use the Cineon, make any primary adjustments that you want, add the Cineon conversion on top of that, which is why this LUT is up here. And then what I would disable is the top one. Now the reason that I would do that is sort of what a LUT on site would be anyway. If you were on a film set and they wanted to see the dailies or something along those lines, they have a LUT so you can see what it would look like on a big broadcast monitor. So that's essentially what you can do. You can activate that LUT to see what it would look like as a final product. Then of course you could disable it, come back to the primary, make your adjustments, double check by reactivating this by putting the eyeball as I did there. Of course, there's no hard and fast rules. If you wanted to leave that activated, you could do that too, obviously, and then come back to the primary layer and then make the adjustments accordingly. Now, what I wanted to show you in this particular example, let me zoom in. What I will do is disable this LUT right now. Now let's focus on these headlights right here. For footage that comes out of your camera, and this primarily happens with contrasty footage from, let's say, a DSLR, something along those lines. When the highlights clip, they go straight to white. And this is not DSLR footage, this is from a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. But what I'll do to drive that home is I'll activate this, the FX Bloom option. And as you can see, I hope you can see that in the screen capture, but that went right to white, and there's a very distinctive line where it went to white. And that's not ideal. It's not attractive. It doesn't look good. And let me just let me toggle that on and off so you can see it. Now, why am I telling you this? Because the film emulations, they have a great transition into the highlights. A lot of the times the highlights will be a little desaturated and it will be a smooth transition. Again, with digital footage, depending on the camera, of course, it will be a very abrupt transition. So let me go ahead and apply this LUT. Now, obviously this needs some more grading, but as you can see, the highlights sort of bloomed out a little bit, and it's a much more pleasing image. I'll toggle that off and on. And that's one of the benefits, along with color, along with trying to look like a certain style, that these film emulation LUTs provides to you. Now here's some more footage from the footage provided by Newman Films. Same review, they provided a couple examples. But now I'll explain what I meant before by the Cineon conversion. I have an option right here, which I already navigated to. We're back in Premiere Pro now. It's the lumetri effect. And as you can see, we have this option here. And at the end, where it says CIN, that's the Cineon log compound gamma. So what we'll do, we'll activate that. And this is the result that we get. So on top of that, because that's the way the order stacks, anything on top will affect anything beneath it. And it affects the way the order is too. If something doesn't appear right to you, you can always take the effect and drag it above or beneath the another effect. And as you can see right there, I added some contrast in with that fast color corrector. So now we have this footage. It's really flat, but it doesn't necessarily look good, depending, on who you ask. And that's not the intention. That wasn't supposed to be the end mark. What I did was add an adjustment layer on top of that. And as you can see, I have a Cineon to Fuji FPE. Now, what does that mean? What we have to do is navigate to the same folder. So I'll open this right now. I'm going to go back one screen. I made these options right here. In feature film, I have the Fuji, the Kodak, and the Kodak. And in television, I have the film contrast, 2, and vision space. Those 6 that you just saw are all in the same folder. I just made those 2 folders in this folder just to separate the two so it's easier to navigate for myself. But anyway, if we come here to feature film, we have Fuji, which is it's a custom 35mm positive, and it's primarily set up for viewing on the internet. You could, I guess, use it for a bigger screen, but it's geared towards that. The 2383, that's according to their documentation, it's an industry standard with mid contrast and saturation. Now the 2393, that will be rich blacks, and it will be higher saturation than it is with the 2383. And it all depends on your footage or the look that you're going for. What I'll do, I had the Fuji previous to that. What I'll do is use the 2393. And that's the result that you get. Let me activate this top layer, which was the original footage. And that is where we ended up. Now here's some footage that I shot with my Canon DSLR about a year or so ago. I didn't use a flat picture style. It was just I believe a neutral picture style. I honestly don't remember. But what I'll do is I went into the Rec 709 folder that I mentioned before. I chose the Cineon conversion. And as you can see, that Cineon LUT really flattened out the image. Now another option that you have, instead of using a film print emulation LUT, Cineon conversion LUT, to bring it back to a Rec 709 space so that it looks good and it has the filmic contrast that we just discussed, you can use the VisionColor Osiris LUTs on top of that. I've chosen the Vision 6 log here. And there's our result. Now, the reason I chose the Vision 6 log and not Rec 709 was because of the Cineon LUT. Normally, even when shooting a flat picture style, in my opinion, as I may have stated before, I would still use Rec 709 because the log options are more geared towards flat shooting styles. A lot of the higher end Sonys, the Blackmagic cameras, things along those lines. But as you can see, it works perfect for this situation. Of course, I could come in here and I could choose a different LUT, let's say KDX. And now this is the result that you'll get. So it's all depending on your intended use. Now we've already addressed two Adobe programs. We have Premiere Pro and Speedgrade. Now let's head over into After Effects and see how it can be utilized there. Now of course, just like with the other programs, you can follow the same kind of thinking, but it may be better to separate each step into its own layer. As you can see here, all I ended up doing was taking the footage, adding an adjustment layer on top. I added the LUT, which I'll activate right now. And then on top of that, I added a curves layer, just to add a little bit different color and a little bit more contrast. But again, these are on the same layer. To show you what I mean about breaking it up, what I'll do is take some new footage, drag it into a new composition, and let's go ahead and add 3 layers. I'm going to go into Layer, New, Adjustment Layer, and do that 2 more times. I'm going to come down here, write negative, come down here, and actually let's leave that at adjustment. And then we can make this one conversion. So we come down here to the negative. I'm going to go to Effect, Utility, Apply Color LUT. Now this is Sony footage, so what I'll do in this case is use Sony S-Log. Now truthfully, I think this is the A6000, which doesn't have S-Log, but we'll use it in this case. I'm going to use the Fuji Superior Cineon LUT, and it's flattened out the image. I'm going to come up to Adjustment, Effect, Color Correction, Curves, a little bit of contrast here. I want to brighten up those brights, but of course I want to bring down those darks a little bit. And maybe darken it overall a little bit. And again, coming back to conversion, I'll go to Effect, Utility, Apply Color LUT, and grouped with the rest of the folders, down at the bottom, we have the Cineon conversions. This time I'll use the television one, the Film Contrast 2, and there we are. And just to group all 3, I'm going to click on this, shift click, turn off the eyeball, before and after, before and after. Now remember, as with any of these, your technique may differ. I've seen people that have put all these adjustments on one layer, and it looks perfectly fine. Of course, you don't have to use the Cineon LUTs. You can use the film contrast ones or the film print emulation ones, and it will work perfectly fine. Just remember what these are intended for. Obviously, it's going to affect your color, as I said before, but it's more going to affect the overall feel and the overall look. If you have any questions, and I'm sure I overlooked a couple things, go ahead and leave it in the comment below. If you like what you've seen here and you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. Any suggestions for future videos, let me know. Same thing, go ahead and leave it in the comment below. And I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Bye. One thing I forgot to mention earlier. We come up to choose LUT. And despite what it says in here, I know some of these actually say negative, but after speaking with VisionColor, they mentioned to me that all of these, besides the ones that say DP, are really film negatives. And remember that the Cineon LUTs are different from the negatives. What I will also do is, if you look in the description below, I'll provide a link to the Kodak YouTube page, and it will explain these film styles a little bit better. That way you have an understanding of what they're really doing, other than just arbitrarily picking one and not understanding what the purpose is. You can actually physically see what they are. Some of these you may have to go out and Google or use some search engine to look them up. But Kodak has a couple good videos that explains what these film styles are doing to the highlights, what they're doing to the image, the saturation, things along those lines. So again, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.